Good evening everyone. I am Vishal Salsekar and today we are going to cover the News Today articles for 2nd and 3rd of November. Right. So in today's discussion we are going to cover 4 important articles in detail, which includes the first article regarding the stampede that had happened in the Andhra Pradesh temple. Now, stampede is one such type of disaster. Across the years, we have seen multiple instances, whether it is, let's say, IPL celebration or maybe any other religious gathering or any other type of event which is not that much well coordinated, that led to the situations like stampede. So we have in this year only a lot of examples, and UPSC can focus upon this particular topic. So we will discuss entirely this topic of stampede, the reasons, and along with that, what is the NDMA framework regarding this. The next is regarding the National Geo-Spatial platform. So there is a National Geo-Spatial platform that is being developed. There is already a policy that has been formulated in this particular regard. How this geospatial data is important, how that can help in multiple domain in order to bring the e-governance or better governance as far as the urban administration and different other aspects are concerned. So we will discuss about that in detail. Next is regarding GSAT-7R, which is the India's heaviest communication satellite. So weighing about roughly 4,400 kilograms. This is the heaviest satellite, or the communication satellite to be precise, from the side of India, and has been launched from LMV-3. Now, in that particular context, from the space perspective, this topic is going to be very, very important, even conceptually from the prelims examination perspective and analytical aspects mein from the mains examination perspective, the space domain, because we have the ambitious target regarding the Gaganyaan and even later on the India's Antariksha station, right? So in that particular domain mein, this is going to be a very important topic conceptually. Next is regarding the Thorium Molten state reactor. So recently China has achieved the conversion from thorium to uranium, right, in this particular reactor. So in that particular context, this article is going to be important from the science and tech perspective and also from the nuclear energies perspective, right? Then we are going to cover the personalities in news, which is Veer Narayan Singh, right, from Chhattisgarh region. And then there are certain other quick updates that we are going to cover. Right. So let's start the discussion with the very first article regarding the stampede that had happened in Andhra Pradesh. Now, as you can see that this creates the situation like a chaos, which is later on turned into a man-made disaster, right? So you might have seen, for example, let's say if you are from any specific place, wherever the religious gathering or maybe any type of festivities or maybe any other type of celebration that might have happened, you might have also encountered similar type of condition. That's why many people suggest that if there is over gathering that is going to take place at any other place, avoid it, right? But when we do not tend to avoid attending such kind of ceremonies or celebration, if the management is not that well, if the management is poor, if the regulatory guidelines are not being properly checked, ensured, and also well coordinated, this leads to a situation like this. So whether it is any specific religious gathering, whether it is any other type of celebration, the stampede does not have to do with any specific type of event or a religion. It has to do with the proper administration, right? So it is a failure of law and order, specifically ensuring the regulatory aspects at any specific place. That's why from the civil services examination perspective also, it is going to be very, very important topic. And you can see from the disaster management perspective, GS paper 3, it is very, very important. The issues, the what is exactly stampede, why it is being caused, what is the NDMA framework that is being talked about in the context of stampede situation. You should be having a clear idea about this. Now, when we talk about stampede, what exactly is stampede? So see, first thing which is a prerequisite for stampede is that there should be certain type of either the real or perceived danger to the life of the people. For example, if you are thinking that there are hundreds of people and if you are not going to rush from this particular place, these people are going to rush over you and then eventually they will be overstepping over you and eventually that is going to create the situation of chaos. So first thing is that there should be a real or the perceived threat to life and even the situation of law and order. First thing. Second thing is with respect to the stampede situation, that generally it is being caused because of the lack of the space. For example, if let's say if there is a room available and there is a capacity of 200 students, and if there may be 2000 students or maybe 500 or 600 or 800, if those are being put in this particular room, then obviously it is going to suffocate a lot of people, right? Maybe a chance that some of the people might get or issue with or feel the issues like, let's say, the suffocation in that particular region, and then eventually there will be a threat to the life that will be faced, and some of you might be even rushing towards the gate. But what if there is only one gate available? Obviously you will try to get yourself survived in this particular situation, so you will not take into consideration the life of other, and then eventually you will move. So there is a furious kind of movement, or the movement that is out of the panic because of the real or the perceived threat, and this particular threat is also because of certain shortage of the space that is available, and that leads to a disastrous situation, which is also sometimes known as the man-made disaster, which is the stampede, right? So this is certain data with respect to stampede. So roughly if you talk about that, in last 3 decades, how many stampedes have taken place? More than 4,000. That means if there is a mains question, you can substantiate your argument. Next is regarding 3,074 lives were lost in 2000 to 2022. That means in last roughly 20 or 22 years, there have been this much lives that were lost, and this is the official record. Obviously, many such people's death might not be even reported in that particular scenario. The number can be even higher, right? Majority of the stampede took place in the religious gathering. This is one such thing, but obviously because the people are going more towards the pilgrims without even taking into consideration that they are not keeping adequate preparations with them. So because of the poor management, generally these particular situation takes place. Also the NDMA talks about that it is a man-made disaster. Now recently, see, when UPSC will ask a question regarding the stampede, if you are going to quote certain prominent stampede from this particular year or the recent part, obviously they will also be able to better relate, right? So they will also be able to assess that you are a personality who have read the current affairs thoroughly. So the Bangalore's RCB wins celebration, right? The New Delhi railway station for the rushing towards the Mahakumbh, right? Recently, a few weeks back only, the political rally in the Karur, Tamil Nadu, that also led to the situation of stampede. Some movies getting released in the opening ceremony, there is stampede like situation. So these situations are being turned into a disastrous situation if the proper management and proper aspects are not taken into consideration. Now, why we are talking a lot about the stampedes in India and why India is more prone to the stampede. So the one such issue is the lack of accountability and enforcement. Now see, you might have gone to a restaurant, right? In that particular restaurant, there is a thing that is mentioned like the emergency exit. But many of the time you might have seen that there is certain obstacle or the hurdle that is being created. Why? Because they wanted to create more and more space. Ideally, though, it should be a completely empty space so that if there is any type of issues, let's say fire, the people can rush towards that particular emergency exit. But many of the times it is being observed during the audits and otherwise also, and you can also observe at many other places that the emergency exits either not available or they are being clogged with certain items which is blocking the exit of the people. Many a time the precautionary measures are not being taken place. Many a time there is no such thing like fire extinguisher. Many a time it is not clear utilization of the signage. Many a time barricades are not being utilized. Many a time the traffic is not being diverted. So these are the issues which is because of the lack of accountability and enforcement, because generally there is a tendency that people think it hai. If the people are coming to these particular gathering, they might be suffering certain things in between, and this is obviously the okay thing, because they will not take that much into consideration, right? That's why the accountability and enforcement is one such prominent issue. Why the stampedes are so much occurring in India and their intensity is increasing. Why? Because when this is further getting included with the rise of social media, you are seeing a trend, let's go to this place, that place is getting overcrowded, that is causing the situation like stampede. Maybe when there is, let's say, a shrine is about to open, at that point of time, if you are overcrowding that particular place just for the tourism and rather than going for the pilgrim wala site, then there are high chances that the stampede like situation might be there. Next is poor planning and coordination. Many of the places it has been observed that between the district administration and the organizers there is no proper coordination. It is not been conveyed that these people are going to take any procession or maybe any other type of gathering that is going to take place at that particular place. In those situations, what is going to take place, that people who are the managing responsibility at that shrine or any other place, these people think that their measures are adequate, but they are not properly coordinating with the district administration, the guidelines of district administration. That's why when the situation occurs, district administration says they have not taken permission. These people says ki we had asked for them and they have said something like this, yes, okay, do it at your will, like this, right? So this is also one such issue. Next is the limited use of technology. Now, right now we are having not only CCTVs and all, but apart from that, even there are artificial intelligence enabled CCTVs which gives you a data regarding the gatherings ka idea. They also gives you an idea regarding through the data analytics and all. You can get the data regarding which particular hours there is more gathering, so that you will plan your trip accordingly, right? So the technology, if being utilized properly, these analytics tool, the data related simulations and all these things can be taken into consideration in order to develop a holistic module with respect to this, in order to control the crowd. But generally what is happening, that these things are being ignored, right? Next is regarding rising pilgrim culture. Now see, yes, if the people have more money, obviously they would want to go to these particular places. You might have seen the craze for iPhone, right? Many a time it is also craze for, let's say the fair has opened, on the day one only, all of them should go, right? Maybe any pilgrim site or maybe any other site, that is a rush. That is not exactly because of the devotion, but to just go for the first wala culture, right? Next is regarding the congested urban spaces. You might have seen urban sprawls. You have seen certain kind of places jahan par there is no proper entry, no proper exits. These places are not very well developed, and if there is any gathering that is organized at those particular places, because of congestion, because of the lack of proper management, these situations are taking place. Social media, panic triggering, right? All these things are there. Next is poorly trained personals. Now see, suppose karo, even if you have taken the permission, district administration might have sent certain personals also, but many a time it has been observed that these people are not properly trained as far as to deal with these particular situations. So these are the reasons why there have been a lot of issues faced regarding the stampede in India. Now, what should be done? Obviously, when we have technology, when we can utilize the real-time monitoring, there should be a clear idea regarding that at this point of time, there is heavy gathering. So, avoid traveling to this place. This should be done in the real-time basis, not as ki bhai, ye situation ho gayi because aisa tha. It has to be done in advance in order to prevent any such kind of unforeseen circumstances. There are CCTVs available, drones available, digital tools. Utilize this in order to gather the data, gather the images and all, and in order to identify that which particular places to be avoided, which particular gate to be avoided right now for the procession and all, so that you will be able to prevent these particular situations. Next is limiting the entry through the registration and the online passes. Many a time it has been observed that if everything is open for all, then the people start rushing if there is certain faith that is attached. Now there should be certain registration. For example, first come first serve basis means if you have registered online, then only you can visit at this particular day, so that the slot system can be provided to the limited people, so that people can get the, maybe if you are going to worship any specific deity, you can go at that particular point of time in order to avoid any kind of overcrowding. Next is ensuring the accountability of the both organizer and the administration. Now, at the time of IPL, the government said ki bhai, the organizers have not asked for the permissions. Organizers were saying ki bhai, we had asked for the permissions, denied. Like this, there is a blame game that is going to take place after the event. But what should be done before the event? There should be clear accountability that if there is any mishappening, both of them will be responsible, right? Lastly is to improve infrastructure. There are barricades available, there are signage available, there are many other things available that should be there in order to prevent any kind of overcrowding. Because once the public starts moving in certain way, then there are very high chances that these particular situation might occur. For example, if somebody, like if there is a gathering of let's say 100 people and somebody says bomb, So in that particular scenario, now people do not process that thing very early, but rather than to react, and that will create a panic situation. There might not be real threat, but the perceived threat also, along with that limited space, that will trigger the anxiety among the people, and they will ensure the crowd behavior, and that will cause the disaster. So these things should be taking place in order to avoid any kind of unforeseen circumstances. Now what NDMA says regarding this, there are certain guidelines that NDMA talks about. Whatever already we have discussed, it is in a structured way. For example, traffic regulation. If let's say there is any pandal, or if there is any specific shrine, and if there is an awareness regarding there is going to be a gathering, so that traffic can be regulated in order to prevent any specific type of collision between the people and the traffic, or any issue that is being caused by the people of that local area because of that particular pilgrim site. So controlled vehicular movement. Next is clear signage. There should be proper entry gate number 1, 2, 3, 4. There should be proper announcements multiple times regarding this. There should be a digital platform from where to announce that now you can go from here to here, right? So in these particular situations, clear signage is very, very important. Next is crowd control. So there should be barricades, there should be queue-based movement, right? In order to prevent any sporadic event or situation that is occurring. Next is surveillance. Now, obviously, there are certain times control room. If there is large gathering, there are generally the control rooms that are available. Even in the Mahakumbh, that was available, right? So in that particular surveillance center, you can have a proper monitoring to CCTV that should be processed along with the data analytics and all. And that is going to ensure that this particular place right now, or this queue is right now full. So we can divert the people to other queue also, so as to manage the crowd. So CCTV cameras ensured adequate police presence, right? Next is space management. Generally the stampede is being occurred because of the space related issues. So remove the unauthorized parkings. Many a time the areas are being encroached even by the stalls. So those particular stalls should also be shifted to certain other places in order to avoid any specific issue. Next is medical preparedness, fire brigade, right? So the fire prevention, public awareness, these should be there in order to prevent any specific situations. Along with that, obviously the role of the volunteers and the administration is going to be very, very important in this. So, like this, UPSC asked the question, discuss the recent measures initiated in disaster management by the government of India departing from the earlier reactive approach. That means we should be having the proactive approach rather than just the reactive approach in order to ensure prevention from any disaster. Because after the disaster, obviously, there will be only blame game. Those lives which have been claimed, they can't be returned back, right? So, in that particular situation, we should be ensuring that there should not be occurrence of any specific type of these unforeseen circumstances. The next article is regarding the India's geospatial policy. So the Survey of India, which is the nodal agency in this particular regard, is developing a national geospatial platform, right? So this national geospatial platform, national means across India, there will be presence of the geospatial data. What is geospatial? Means the data regarding that particular piece. It talks about the topography, it talks about the coordinates, it talks about the latitude, altitude, all these things is available so as to make yourself aware regarding what are the basic features or characteristics of that region and what can be done based upon this particular data. The platform is going to aggregate all these things. So this is the National Geospatial Platform. Now talking about its relevance from UPSC's perspective, GS paper 2, governance including the e-governance policy technology. GS paper 3, where you can talk about the science and tech, infrastructure and security perspective, because all these context it is important. GS paper 1, geography and the resource distribution, because sometimes this geospatial platform may also give you a data regarding the minerals availability, a lot of other resources availability in that particular region, right? Now talking about the National Geospatial Platform, NGP. So what is the geospatial data? Geospatial is basically concerning about that particular region, the specific features, which talks about its latitude, longitude, altitude, other features, right? Elevation, and also those particular data details regarding that region is the geospatial data, the data regarding the space of that particular region. Now, This is implementing the vision of the national geospatial policy that was brought in 2022. So in 2022, there was this particular national geospatial policy that was being brought. Obviously, what should be the objective of the policy which is concerning about the characteristics or the feature of any specific region? So by having an idea regarding that region, for example, suppose karo, if you have to do work regarding improving the agricultural yield on any specific region, if you know the features of that particular region, if you know the coordinates, if you know or have the basic idea about that particular region, then only you will be able to propose certain measures in order to improve, let's say, whether it is crop yield, whether it is irrigation, whether it is crowd management, whether it is any other type of management, yes or no. So in order to do anything, you should be having a data or awareness regarding that place. That's what is this particular geospatial data is going to do. So this will be available in the form of the credible, authentic, quality data with respect to that particular place in order to be utilized by different stakeholders in order to ensure betterment as far as the governance is concerned. Now, all the dimensions of governance, whether it is political, economic, social, environmental, in all those domains, it is going to be important, right? So it is going to ensure the standardization, sharing and managing the foundational geospatial data sets, means the data or the idea regarding that particular place, that particular topography, right? Now it will provide the seamless access to the accurate, authoritative spatial data through the web services, APIs and the mobile application. For example, let's assume any specific एक एग्रीकल्चर का एक्सरसाइज है that is going to give you an idea regarding if this particular are the feature of that topography. You can do these things. Now, if there is a person who is accessing this particular detail, that can incorporate the suggestions provided over here, and that yield or the productivity is going to get increased, right? Now, how this particular geospatial data ko harness karke you can ensure a better e-governance. Better e-governance means there will be, based upon data, there is a data centric governance. So first, when we talk about agriculture, for example, precision farming, now you are aware regarding this particular region is suitable for any specific ABC crop, right? So in that case, you can go specifically for that. You know that irrigation ke liye this particular methodology of irrigation, let's say drip irrigation, because that particular region does not contain a lot of water resources. So the drip irrigation or the micro irrigation tools can be utilized. That can be done. Even the soil health related mapping, an idea regarding what is the constituents of what are the constituents of that particular soil, what is the composition, what is the availability of the macro and micronutrient, right? Irrigation management, all these things can be, we are able to get an idea about that if we are having a data regarding that particular place, which is the geospatial data. Next is logistics and the transportation. Similar manner में try to apply that logic. So integrated infrastructure planning. For example, suppose karo, if you have to develop any specific, let's say freight corridor, if you are having an idea regarding the coordinate A to coordinate B, if you have to move, you know that what is the topography in between, how we have to proceed from here to here, what will be the obstacle. If that data is available, then only you will be able to ensure the seamless transportation and the logistics availability, right? So the PM Gati Shakti Master Plan, National Master Plan, which is talking about the development of infrastructure based upon the coordination between different ministries. So if there is a data available, then only these particular things can work better manner, right? Next is regarding urban planning and the infrastructure. So the topographical surveys, national digital twin for the major cities. Now see, topographical surveys are basically the survey of this particular region, so as to get an idea regarding whether there is a pond, whether there is a lake, whether there is any specific mountainous region, right? So that you will be having an idea. That's how you are going to plan any specific development. For example, if there is high elevation, obviously the construction of road will be difficult. If there is, let's say, availability of maybe a river in that particular region, obviously the connectivity may there will be hindrance, right? So the topographical surveys. Apart from that, national digital twin for the major cities. For example, if you want to do it a large scale, first you should be having certain simulated model of that can be done, and then later on that can be replicated at a larger level, right? The master plan for the cities. Let's say you have to develop a city, you are a district magistrate. How you are going to develop or ensure the developmental project in that particular region, right? If you have data regarding the geospatial data, then only you will be able to work upon that particular data. What are the strength, what are the issues that are going to take place, and then you will be able to ensure the better urban planning. Lastly, the environmental conservation. For example, let's say the forest or the development or doing the afforestation activities where there is high probability that the forest can be regenerated. Similar disaster management, if you can predict that this is the topography, these are the issues that can occur, and if these situations are getting accumulated, there are high chances that this might be the disaster that is going to take place. So in order to prevent those situations, disaster management ke liye bhi you can harness or utilize the geospatial data. Now talking about the national geospatial data policy जो है 2022 का, what this particular policy talks about, because the question में they can ask that there is a issue with there are multiple issues with respect to urban planning. GS1 में भी even urbanization में this can be asked, right? So when they are going to link the urban issues and then they will ask how the national geospatial policy of 2022 can be able to work upon this or plug that particular lacunas or gap. So it is providing the strategic roadmap for the development of the geospatial infrastructure services platforms at both national and the subnational level. So it is not only talking about the national level ka data, this is also talking about the national and the subnational, which is at the state level and further ground level, right? Geospatial data promotion and the development committee that is being formed at a national level. So the geospatial data promotion and the development committee that is being formed. Next is Operation Dronagiri, right? So this particular Operation Dronagiri that is aimed to demonstrate the real world application of the geospatial technology. That means if you have data or quality data available, how that data can be utilized in order to prevent a lot of situations. Whether it is e-governance, whether it is urban governance, whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is agriculture, in all those domain mein, these particular things can be utilized. So it is a pilot project that was being launched in order to demonstrate the real world application of these particular data. Lastly, other key initiative which include the National Geospatial Mission, National Geospatial Data Repository. So these are nothing but the integrated aspects of how the data we can have, how we can ensure processing of that data, and how the calculated decisions can be taken based upon availability of these particular data. This is regarding the National Geospatial Policy of 2022. Now like this, see, this is a very old question, but like this UPSC keeps on asking question regarding certain things. For example, previous aspect mein they could have asked regarding the Operation Dronagiri associated with which, right? So in that particular context like this, you should have at least a brief idea regarding what is the objective of any specific policy or mission. Next is regarding the ISRO's launch, which is the ISRO launch India's heaviest communication satellite for the Indian Navy. Now obviously when we are talking about ISRO, a major, or we can say the premier organization as far as the space domain is concerned, and we are not talking about India, it is at the global level. ISRO has a different standing as compared to multiple other space organizations because of its efficiency, because of its cost effectiveness, right? So from the GS paper 3's perspective, science and technology, defense related development, because it is doing with the Indian Navy, and this GSAT-7, this particular series is developed for the strategic objectives ke liye, whether it is for the armed forces including Navy, Army, Air Forces, right? Apart from that, internal security, because of these things only. Then infrastructure, indigenization of technology, because this is with the objective of indigenization of technology or indigenization of the defense domain or make in India all aspects or Atmanirbhar Bharat. All these things are clubbed under this. So that's why this is a important thing. UPSC can also focus upon this. Now, what are certain important details? So recently there have been the launch of the GSAT-7R, right? Now, what is this particular GSAT-7R? It is the defense communication ka satellite, which is one of the heaviest satellite that is being launched. So what is the weight? It is 4,400 kilogram. Exactly not important. UPSC might not go into a detail, but have an idea regarding this. This is one of the heaviest satellite that is being launched. Now obviously in order to launch the heavy satellite, you will have to utilize the vehicle which will launch or which will be having the capability to launch this much heavy. So that's why the most capable one from the side of ISRO has been utilized, which is the LMV-3, which was previously GSLV Mk3, right? So this is the launch vehicle Mark 3 from the Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. This was launched, right? So generally either there is PSLV or GSLV that is being utilized. Now GSLV Mark 3 को specific name दिया गया, which is LMV-3 launch vehicle Mark 3. And generally for the largest or the heaviest satellite launch के लिए this is being utilized. What is the composition of this? This is a 3-stage vehicle. See, whenever you are talking about any launch vehicle, one thing should be very, very clear: what kind of fuel it is being utilized, or what kind of fuel is being utilized in that particular launching. For example, let's say maybe a chance there may be solid, liquid, or maybe only solid, maybe only liquid, maybe only cryogenic, right? So you should be having a brief idea about that what are the stages, number of stages, and what is the type of fuel. So in this, it is a 3-stage vehicle, means there will be first stage, there will be boost that will be provided, and then there is a second stage where there will be consistent upliftment, and then there might be third stage which will be for later on like ejecting it out of the space. Okay, so solid stage mein there are 2 solid strap on boosters. So solid fuel is basically available in the solid form, and obviously that is going to be heavy, but that is also a form of like we can say that is the material which is having comparatively higher availability of the oxidizers and all within that particular solid form, right? Then the liquid state, obviously it is going to be comparatively lighter, but there are chances that there may be spill also, right? So liquid core stage hai. Then third is the cryogenic stage. So in the cryogenic stage, the fuels like let's say oxygen and hydrogen are kept at a very low temperature, and then they are utilized at the last or the upper stage. So this is a 3-stage vehicle. Now you have to tell me that what are the stages for PSLV? What are the stages that are being utilized in the PSLV regarding its launch vehicle, right? Now talking about the key feature, when we are talking about any specific satellite which is being much talked about because of its weight, because of its objective that it is going to fulfill, then obviously there may be a chance that UPSC might be asking a brief detail about it. So what are the key feature? It is a defense communication satellite, right? Under the series GSAT-7. So GSAT-7 series jo hai, that is for the defense related communication. Now weight 4,400 kilometer, right? The launch is in the geosynchronous transfer orbit. Now see, there are different type of orbit. When you will read the science and technology, you will read about different type of orbits also. There is low earth, there is middle earth, and then the upper earth type के orbits भी हैं. Then there are certain other orbits like the geosynchronous orbits हैं, geostationary orbit है. Geostationary and geosynchronous orbits are more than 35,000 kilometer above, right? So इतना distance होता है where they are stationing. But you might be reading this particular term geosynchronous transfer orbit. That means this is the intermediate orbit where right now this is being parked and this will ensure circulation. I'll show you like this. For example, let's say if this is Earth and if this is a geostationary or the geosynchronous orbit, right? Now what you will do, there are 2 options. Either you can launch directly in this and then it will start rotating, doing the circumambulation of this Earth, right? Or otherwise what you will do, you will launch like this and then it will be in the geosynchronous transfer orbit like this. So it will ensure like this, धीरे धीरे करके इसका orbit बढ़ेगा and then ultimately it will reach like this. So not in direct way, but in 2, 3, 4, 5 n number of iteration, it will reach to the ultimate destination and then it will start circulating like this. क्लियर है? सो दिस ऑर्बिट जो इनिशियली भेजा गया है जिस ऑर्बिट में, दिस इज द जियोसिंक्रोनस ट्रांसफर ऑर्बिट, राइट? GTO. नाउ मल्टी बैंड टेलीकम्युनिकेशन सर्विसेज, सो देयर आर मल्टीपल फ्रीक्वेंसी जिस पे देयर विल गोइंग टू बी द कम्युनिकेशन. नाउ स्पेसिफिकली दिस इज बीइंग टॉक्ड अबाउट फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ नेवी. नाउ व्हाई नेवी नीड कम्युनिकेशन? बिकॉज सी there are, when there is any specific, let's say if there is any frigate or maybe any other type of naval vehicles or the vessels that are moving, they need to communicate with each other. If they are seeing any specific perceived threat from a larger distance, they should be communicating with other. Now if there are limited frequency bands that can be intercepted by the enemy, so in that particular context there should be multiple frequency bands and also the certain other things which cannot be intercepted by the normal communication interceptors, right? So it strengthens the space-based communication, maritime domain awareness, and also the secure links which will prevent any specific leak of information from the side of the military domains, right? Now, talking about its significance, so obviously when we talk about that this is entirely made in India, so in that case it is growing India's self-reliance or Atmanirbharta in the defense space communication. So first thing is it is talking about the Atmanirbhar Bharat and will ensure the achieving of the objective of the same. It enhances the Navy's strategic capabilities for the communication. The blue water communication reach, for example, what is the blue water navy, which is able to control the larger patch in that particular ocean region. Now, in order to be a blue water navy, one navy should be having the strengthened communication. Even if not with the Indian vessel, maybe with any other vessel, there should be a clear communication that should be established in order to prevent any such escalation. So that particular thing is very, very important. Next is precision warfare. Now suppose if there is a perceived threat from any specific vessel at the distant, so in that particular context, you can ensure the precision warfare, means not going for the full-fledged warfare, but maybe let's say the jamming of that particular frequency band or any other thing that is going to ensure the precision warfare to prevent any major escalation. Now, what are the other military satellites of GSAT-7? Because this series is talking about the military or the strategic objectives के लिए GSAT-7 के satellites भेजे जा रहे हैं. So there are multiple satellites that were already launched in this. So there is GSAT-7 Rukmini for the maritime communication and the surveillance. This is for Navy. For Air Force, there is GSAT-7A Angry Bird, which is network-centric operations and the data link connectivity. There is GSAT-7C for the real-time secure communication. Now see, you might be thinking कि सारा याद करना है. See, I would say to some extent no. You should be having an idea regarding the satellite of GSAT-7 की objective क्या है this GSAT-7 का in the context of the recent satellite launch. That's it. I would say this much. Again, if UPSC want to go beyond that, it will be difficult for each and every one of us, right? So in that particular sense, no need to go, but just have an idea, maybe a chance. If you see any specific satellite name, it is from this, and then in that case, it will be easily eliminatable, right? So Army के लिए GSAT-7B, which talks about the enhancing surveillance and the communication in the border area. So see, for the respective forces, their respective capabilities is being enhanced through these particular communication satellite. Also, you should have a brief idea regarding the difference between the remote sensing and the communication satellite. Why the remote sensing satellites are generally being placed in the polar orbit or the sun synchronous orbit, and the communication satellites are being launched in the geosynchronous or the geostationary orbits. So एक बार इसके बारे में भी देखिए और थॉट प्रोसेस को इंश्योर कीजिए. Like this, UPSC had asked the question regarding the space or the satellite related thing. What is the main task of third moon mission, which could not be achieved in the earlier mission? List the countries that have achieved this task, introduce the subsystems in the spacecraft launched, and explain the role of the virtual launch control center at the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. See, these type of question can also be asked. So this means sometimes they can also ask the typical question. That's why I have given you certain more details regarding that particular topic. Last is regarding the China successfully achieved the first ever thorium to uranium fuel conversion in a thorium molten state reactor. So thorium molten salt reactor, right? Now, from the perspective of UPSC, again, GS paper 3, science and technology, energy environment, because it is talking about the energy which is not based upon certain fossil fuels. Yes. So in that particular sense, it is important. Also GS paper 2, international relations, because see, if China have successfully built this, and China is the first country to do and have achieved this particular feat, don't you think so? That like China have monopolized the rare earth elements, there are very high chances ki in that technology domain also, there are chances that China can monopolize that, and that is going to cause the difficulty across the world, right? That's why it is important. Now, talking about the thorium molten salt reactor. So here, the thorium molten salt reactor mein, this particular molten salt is being utilized as a coolant. So this is not utilizing water as a coolant in order to cool this entire reactor. It is utilizing molten salt, which is having the boiling point even higher than as compared to the heavy water or water, right? And see, when you are heating water, there is a generation of the vapor. So there are also chances that there may be a blast like situation. But in the case of this particular molten salt, this is not the issue. and moreover there is a plug that is attached to that. So in case of overheating, that particular plug melts, and that leads to the entire material or entire mixture from the reactor goes out and the process cuts off. That's why the chances of disaster are also comparatively low, and this is what the major achievement of this. Now, why we are talking about that China has achieved this particular feat to convert thorium into uranium. That means thorium by itself is not fissile, it is a fertile, and it has to made fissile, or basically it has to enrich, it has to be converted first into uranium in order to become fissile. And that's what is being achieved in this particular case of China. Clear hai? Now, what are the key features? So it cools without water. This particular reactor cools without the water. What it is utilizing? It is utilizing the molten salt. So in the thorium molten salt reactor, there can be a question regarding coolant. So it is the molten salt which is the coolant. It runs at the atmospheric pressure. That means there is no such thing like high pressure in this. So the blast and the catastrophe like situation can also be curtailed. Also deliver a high temperature output. That means the output is not getting compromised out of this. Also, apart from that, when we are talking about the thorium based reactor, since the abundance of thorium as compared to uranium is roughly thrice, that means 3 times more thorium is available as compared to uranium. That means even the chances of generation of energy are also very, very high. Now, talking about the advantages, since this is the 4th generation reactor, this is 4th generation reactor. Why? Because this is talking about the sustainability, it talks about the safety, it talks about the efficiency. That's why it is categorized as the 4th generation reactor. Now, first thing in this is the passive safety feature. That means if there is the molten salt reactor, if that gets too much heated, in that particular case, there is a salt plug that melts and the entire material comes out and the process cuts off, so that there will not be a blast like situation like that happens in the nuclear reactors. We have seen in the Chernobyl and many other cases, right? Next is the small high level nuclear waste footprint. This in simple word talks about the nuclear waste that is being generated after that entire process of the nuclear energy generation. तो जो actinides होते हैं, those are being created out of this. There will be very lesser amount of the waste that is being generated from this. So fewer long-lived minor actinides. So very less amount of minor actinides are being generated in this, and which is basically the waste of the nuclear energy generation. Next is extract more energy from the fuels. When there is a less, comparatively these lesser actinides are coming out of this, obviously there will be more energy generation. Also, if there is no such thing like the temperature is going to get too much increase, that will also increase the pressure and there will be blast like situation. So this is all also being avoided in order to prevent the blast, and then we can extract more energy from the fuel. Now, talking about this particular article, there are few things which are very, very important and which has to be discussed. First is regarding the thorium as a fuel. So as I have told you that it is a fertile material, that means by itself it is not fissile. It has to be first converted into uranium-233 and then it can be utilized in the reactor. Now, talking about India, India has 3 stages plan. First stage mein it is talking about the pressurized heavy water reactor which is utilizing uranium-233. It extracts and it emits certain amount of plutonium also that can be utilized in the fast breeder reactor, which will generate comparatively more amount of plutonium. And then ultimately there is the advanced heavy water reactor, which is the 3rd stage, which utilize that plutonium along with the thorium based fuel. Thorium can be utilized in that particular reactor. This is what is the objective of the 3 stages nuclear program of India. So it can be utilized in the advanced heavy water reactor, which is being developed by BARC. Next is, it is 3 times more abundant in nature than the uranium. That means the availability of thorium is high, but at the same time it is also costly extraction, because in order to extract the thorium, there is a large cost that is being involved, right? That's why it is difficult. Also, the 3rd stage of the India's nuclear program is utilizing thorium. Now, India is developing an Indian molten salt breeder reactor. It is also at the developmental stage. So, like China has developed, India is also working upon that. Now, when we talk about thorium, its availability in India. So, India is the largest reserve of the thorium. There is Kerala and Odisha, which are having the large source in the form of the monazite sand from where you can extract the thorium. But obviously, that process is comparatively costly. Other region जहाँ thorium available है, Andhra Pradesh and its coast, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and Jharkhand. So, these are the region where the thorium is available. UPSC can ask a prelim based question that consider the following places which of the following places there are high chances of finding out the thorium. There may be certain states from here might be mentioned, right? Now, like this previous year question, with the growing energy need, should India keep on expanding its nuclear energy program? Discuss the fact and fear associated with this particular program, right? Next is regarding the personality in news, which is Veer Narayan Singh. So recently PM inaugurated Shaheed Veer Narayan Singh Memorial and the Tribal Freedom Fighter Museum in Chhattisgarh. That's why the personality is important. Now again, multiple time I have told you that see, UPSC is also now moving out of the textbook and going towards the current affairs or the personalities which are other than those specifically mentioned in the classical books, right? That's why it is important to have an idea regarding India's personalities which are other than those personalities we generally find the mention. So he's a leader and freedom fighter from the Sonakhan region of Chhattisgarh, related to Binjwar tribe, right? Now he rebelled against the Britishers and also the Bhosles. First freedom fighter from the Chhattisgarh and also the symbol of the tribal resistance. So he was also a major participant of the revolt of 1857. He belonged to a zamindar family. He born and brought up in the zamindar family. Later on, he inherited the zamindari, and in 1857 he also rebelled against the British East India Company, and later on fought valiantly against the British East India Company during the revolt of 1857. But then, obviously, later on he was captured and later on executed. He also during the famine seized the food grains from the ट्रेडर. सो बेसिकली एक तरीके का रॉबिनहुड टाइप का पर्सनैलिटी था वीर नारायण सिंह जी का, राइट? सो हैव अ ब्रीफ आइडिया रिगार्डिंग दिस. देयर कैन बी अ क्वेश्चन रिगार्डिंग मैच द फॉलोइंग, मे बी द स्टेट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन माइट बी आस्क्ड, राइट? So you should have a brief idea regarding this. Or if you are belonging to the region of Chhattisgarh, obviously you should be having a more detailed idea regarding the personality of Veer Narayan Singh. Now, having discussed about him, next let's discuss certain other quick updates in this. First is regarding the advocate. So I'm very sure that many of you are also confused regarding what is the difference between an advocate and the lawyer, and this is also one such issue which is being clarified over here. So the context is that Supreme Court has held that in-house counsels jo hote hain, which is being employed by any specific company, those gives the legal advices and all, are not entitled to client attorney privilege under the section 132 of the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam. That means if there is any communication that will not get the similar treatment as there is any specific communication between an advocate and his counsel, right, or the client. Right? So they are not considered as advocate under the Advocates Act of 1961. That means जो in-house counsels hai, they are not the advocates. It is being mentioned by Supreme Court. Then who are the advocates? So basically, see, there are two terms, advocate and the lawyers. A lawyer is one who basically have studied the law. जिन्होंने law पढ़ा है, those who have done the BA LLB degree, they are the lawyers. Not necessarily all of them are practicing, right? So if out of them, under the provisions of the Advocates Act 1961 and the Bar Council of India rules, if you have passed this BLLB examination and also recognized class of person who is entitled to practice, that means if जो आपने बार काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया एग्जाम जो होता है, if you have given that, and then only you will be eligible to practice. Those who are in-house counsels, they are not eligible to be called as the advocate, and the privileges that are available to the advocates are not available to them. So section 132 of the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam, previously was Indian Evidence Act, right, protects the communication between an advocate and the client subjected to certain exception. Means the court will not ask कि भाई इन्होंने आपको क्या बताया, all these things should be told. So there are certain exceptions, but yes, there is confidentiality that has to be maintained. So court has said that it is not available to the in-house counsel. So there is a difference between the advocate and the lawyer. Advocate is one who is actually practicing the law. Lawyer is one who has completed the law degree, studied the law, that's it. Might be a consultant, might be any other person, not exactly fighting the cases in the court. NCLAT, So recently the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, that means the NCLT, which is the National Company Law Tribunal, uska appeal jahan jata hai, which is the Appellate Tribunal, this particular body said that the Competition Commission of India has no power to examine the dispute related to the patent matters. Now, what is a patent? Suppose karo, if you have done certain invention, obviously you would want that jo apne cost, effort lagaya hai, that particular thing should get come to you again, right? So in that particular sense, you get the patent of that particular product. So in the Patent Act, it is mentioned that it precedes over the Competition Act. You can't cite the Competition Act ki fair practice ensure karo and reveal all the details. No. With the patent, there is a security provided of the tenure for that particular patent or invention, right? So Patent Act provide exclusive right to the innovation of any specific individual, jo bhi aapne kiya. Now NCLAT, which is formed under the Companies Act of 2013, here's the appeals against the NCLT order, Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Board of India, and the Competition Commission of India. But then when there was this particular appeal that was there regarding the patent related matter, the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal said that Competition Commission of India does not have any power over this. What is Competition Commission of India? Again, a statutory body formed under the Competition Act of 2002. It eliminates anti-competitive practices and also ensures the interest of the consumer and the freedom of trade. Matlab, if there is any corporation of companies which is doing any practices which is hampering the competition, that should be struck down as per the Competition Commission of India. Next is regarding the Coal India Limited. So it is a PSU, public sector undertaking, right? It is a Maharatna. So this was formed in 1975, completed 50 years. That's why it was in news. So headquarters is in Kolkata. It was formed after the nationalization of the coal mines. So it is a Maharatna CPSU, Central Public Sector Undertaking under the Ministry of Coal. Now have a brief idea about what is Maharatna, what is Navaratna, what is Mini Ratna categories, right? So you should have a brief idea. Now it manages the coal mines, 310 roughly, 129 underground, not exactly important, but it manages all type of mines, underground, open cast and the mixed type of mines. Market role क्या है? Supply करता है roughly 80% of the coal or the domestic coal in India. Coal India Limited. Next is regarding silicon carbide. So this is basically a material that is being created by the covalently bond ceramic made of the silicon and the carbon atom. So it is basically we can say a kind of molecule which is formed by the silicon and the carbon atom, right? And it is very hard, very tough, and also able to withstand with the higher temperatures, right? So it is having high thermal conductivity, low thermal expansion, means if you are exposing it to temperature, it does not get expanded, and that's what is important, right? Used in the semiconductor, aerospace component, etc., because they are exposed to a very high temperature, right? So Odisha's chief minister laid the foundation stone for the India's first end-to-end silicon carbide semiconductor manufacturing facility in the state. So where? In the Odisha, silicon carbide, right? Next is regarding the monoclonal antibodies, right? So Indian Council of Medical Research seek the partners to develop the monoclonal antibodies against the Nipah virus. Now, whenever there is any specific disease that is there in news, just have an idea about this disease, that what are the causative agents. So in the case of Nipah, it is a zoonotic disease which is being caused by the or transmitted by the bats or the infected animals to humans. So whenever it is being caused by the animals to human, or the contamination can be possible, this is a zoonotic disease. It is a viral one, right? Nipah virus. Now, what is the monoclonal antibodies? So basically this monoclonal antibodies that are being produced in the laboratory, or they are the proteins that are being produced in the laboratories, and they are engineered to bind the specific antigen. That means they are targeting specific individual antigen, only one type. For example, let's say there is a specific cell that is having or that have the chances to cause the cancer. So that specific antigen को target करेगा, which mimic the natural immune response. Like for example, in your body, if there is any foreign agent that is being exposed, your body's immune response is targeting that. So similar response is being generated, but only for one specific antigen. So it targets specific antigens, right? It is used to diagnose, prevent and treat the diseases including cancers, autoimmune disorder, viral infection. So basically it targets the specific antigens. उसी के लिए monoclonal antibodies को बनाया जाता है, right? Last in this is the ICC Women's World Cup. So again, we have I think all of you might have also watched the match if you are a cricket lover, or you might have at least followed this particular feat. So India have achieved this feat that thrice they entered into the final, but this is for the first time that they have lifted the ICC Women's One Day Trophy for 2025. So this was a major victory for India. India defeated which country? South Africa, right? So the first edition was in 1973. See why we are discussing. Generally, UPSC does not that much ask, but in a few years, last few years, we have observed that for major historic events, they have asked certain questions. So have an idea about this. First edition was in 1973, won by England. So the most title are with Australia, then with England, then India and New Zealand also share one title. Which was the host country? It was in India, and along with that, which was other country? In Sri Lanka. So India Sri Lanka mein hua tha. It was third final of India. Previously India played in 2005 17 mein finals, but in 2025 they have finally lifted the title and the trophy, right? So this is regarding the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup. So with this, we have completed the news today discussion of the 2nd and the 3rd of November. I hope that whatever we have discussed is clear to you. Now try to solve the question which are on your screen, and also try to visit this particular page and access multiple other feature with respect to current affairs. Okay? Chalo. So we'll meet again. Thank you everyone.